Welcome everyone to Politically High Tech with your host, Elias. This is the first year. We got someone who is still in the government. Many people I have interviewed, they're kind of outside, trying to make their way in creatively, with some authenticity with some people. But this one's still in the government. So good. We got an insider. Finally. This is a first for the podcast. Yay. And you know what? And I like the fact that I'm having definitely more minorities in this podcast. I've been doing outreach to those groups in particular because look, I am not against white people, but I did the statistics. They've been the overwhelming majority. So now I need to try to find a way to balance that out at least a little bit. Because look, at the end of the day, I am a curious person. And when I see there's lack, I tend to go more aggressively after. That's where my aggression comes. Like, wait a minute, I need to do outreach to the what's the acronym BIPOC, and I saw well, the only minorities I was getting was more of Arabs and Indians. I said, well, I could put those aside as well. We need the more blacks, Latinos, Chinese, or even different religious groups. It doesn't have to be ethnic and racial either. Definitely more women too. And I saw that there was an imbalance. So I'm happy. I'm trying to do my goal. Has it been a success? I don't know. I don't think so. I got to
We'll
work
see
on
if this
more.
is a success.
No. I'm confident for this interview. I'm talking my personal goal, getting more people that are, non-white women. I think the women part I'm getting better at, but I definitely need to do more outreach for those. And so far I would say it's been mixed, but there's definitely improvement there for sure. So feel free to comment on that if you want. But let's put that aside, and we're gonna talk about AI integration in government and about Missouri politics in general. What's the state of it? And we have the honorable, he has it right there, Michael Butler. And what this is why I normally do when I get started. What do you want the audience, the viewers and listeners to know about you?
Thanks, Elias. I like folks to know that I'm Mike Butler. I'm the recorder of deeds for the city of St. Louis. If you don't know what a recorder of deeds is, I'm over all of the land deeds of the city, all the birth certificates, marriage licenses, and all the archives in the city. I'm an elected official that is pretty much an elected administrator in the city of St. Louis, serving almost about 300,000 people. Before I've been the recorder of deeds for 7 years. Before that, I was a Missouri state legislator. I was a young state legislature in Jefferson City, Missouri. I served in the state house from ages 27 to 32. Well, 30, about 33. I guess, did I leave right before my 33rd birthday? Yes. And really enjoyed that job, learned a lot about government, a master's degree in public administration, and also served as the chairman of the Missouri Democratic Party for 2 years after I was in the state legislature. Well, I was still the recorder, but after my time in the legislature from 2020 to 2023. So I have a lot of experience in both government, from the legislative branch and the executive branch, and from an academic standpoint, and of course, a lot of experience in politics and winning campaigns.
You have some business experience as well, because I did see some of that as well.
Yeah, I do. Before I got into politics, I worked at a little place called Walmart at their home office in Bentonville, Arkansas. I have a business management undergraduate degree, and yes, I started my own company back in 2019. I owned a bar here in St. Louis. It was called Open Concept. It was the only open bar concept in the country, based off Nomi Hodai's in Japan. It went well for a good 5 years, and I closed that back in July of 2025, 24. Yes.
Look at that all-around guy, not just, some of the critics, I can already hear them. Oh, he's just an academic. He's not going to know about business or real life or any of that. It's stuff the head in the books and sniff that dust, and look, can't say that about him, all right? So far, he seems well-rounded, all right? Let's just be clear about that. If you want to be critical, just make sure you're on point when you're critical. Don't say you don't have business experience. He just said it right there.
Agreed.
Unless you want to, be on copium and be in denial and just put your comments and expose your stupidity, that's entirely up to you. I cannot help you there. I'm not a shrink. you need help from there. That's all I'm gonna say about that. I don't mind constructive criticism, but if it's silly, like your mama's fat or you're stupid, I think that's a bit old school. I'm sure my age a little bit. I used to watch that stuff when I was a much more younger person, middle school and all that. It was offensive, but you have thick skin at that time. Look, I'm not gonna get into all of that, but I trust me, I could take some verbal, not some, I could take verbal attacks. I've been called about names, so it's nothing to me. You just know that you're exposing yourself at the end of the day, and YouTube will censor you, not me. That's not my job. Just remember that. But Rumble, which will be uploaded on Rumble, you have a lot more freedom there. So that's what I'm going to say. So, all right, enough about addressing the haters. The supporters here, I'm sure they're saying, "Yay, I'm having more Democrats." Yeah, because if I didn't do anything about it, it would have been right leaning, and I don't want that. I want it to be as fair as possible. It's
Love
not
it.
easy to do. Not easy to do at all. That's why it's purple, not red or blue. Even though my personal favorite color is red. But don't say I'm a Republican because my personal favorite color is red. I will slap you.
My personal favorite color is red too, as well. You got it.
And and he's with the Democrats, so don't be stupid, people. All right, so about I gotta say, I normally I am not this excited because normally, like I said before, a lot of people have interviewed, they're trying to get in the government, they're campaigning, they're the beginning phases of it. Here we got someone who's currently in government that has a lot of experience, so this is exciting. Look, you can do it, people. It doesn't. It shouldn't matter your skin color or your gender, but you're gonna have to go through barriers and have a tough of mind and heart and spirit. Let me just say that because it's not easy. Politics is not for the weak. I'm just gonna say that right now. If you're very sensitive, you get overwhelmed easily, it's not for you. I mean, me personally, I'm trying to fight for New York State more. We're trying to increase voter rights for independence. We won one part of the battle, we lost the other one. It was discouraging, but you got to keep going. That's my point. At politics, you got to play the long game. You can't just expect everything just happen real quickly. So that's what I've learned. Okay, as an independent who has joined nonpartisan organizations, you got to play the long game. All right, so let's see. So that's a question I got here. So let's talk about AI integration, and I want your overall opinion of AI and how can it make government more accessible, and I'll even add efficient.
Artificial intelligence to me is can be a game changer and a huge way for government to either save money or save tasks from a lot of labor tasks from a lot of employees that they have. So first things first, a lot of people in my sector are afraid of artificial intelligence. They're afraid for a couple reasons. One, people in my industry are very much uh, interested in safety, and if they don't feel that artificial intelligence is a safe space, if they can't, sometimes they can't touch it. If they're not, they don't want to be the first mover. They're not the second mover. They don't see that it's been years and decades something that's worked. A lot of times, government does not like to be the first mover. Um, I typically say, like a lot of government employees in general, they're not usually entrepreneurial types. These are folks who usually took a safe job. They're getting paid a little less because they like the safety of the pension for their retirement. They like the safety of the non-competitiveness of their job. So these are usually people who are government employees. Are usually, not always. I found myself, I'm in the 10% of folks who are looking for safety. So they bring that kind of perspective and decision making that they make for your tax dollars. And some people like that. They're like, hey, maybe government shouldn't take as many risks, but it also means government can sometimes be less efficient. I think that government can be both safe and entrepreneurial at the same time and innovative at the same time. So here's why. In the private sector, you eat what you kill, and you get a lot of folks who are big risk takers, and they sometimes lose. People don't want government to lose, but in the public sector, let me say, in the private sector, people have you're getting investment for money, you're making sales, and you only really get to spend what you bring in. In the public sector, we have a we have usually a more stable revenue structure because we get a certain amount of tax dollars every year. From that perspective, I feel like governments have a better ability to sometimes take those risks because we know we're going to get another influx of cash each month or each year from a budget. So we should be able to take risk a little more than the private sector. And we've seen that sometimes with programs like NASA in the past or things of that sort. So I come from the perspective that we can be innovative as long as we're doing it calculating, whereas we calculate our risk and we have backups so we can make sure we don't go off site or we go black or anything, or we're still providing the same amount of service. So how does that tie into artificial intelligence? Artificial intelligence is, and a lot of people in my sector see as a risk and something that's unsafe, when quite frankly, it can, if you tie it into your work the correct way, it can make you more efficient and more safe. One way we're looking at using artificial intelligence in my office is there are a lot of repetitive tasks when it comes to dealing with deeds and birth certificates and things of that sort. So I'm not in a very sexy office at this time, not like when I was in the state legislature. I have a lot of repetitive tasks that we do very well. And artificial intelligence, the technology it is today, is perfect for repetitive tasks, for things that you do 100 times a day or 100 times a week, that you can replace that task with artificial intelligence to do for you. One of those things in our office is we approve or reject document filings from title companies online. We do it with what's called e-recording in our industry, and a title company will be somewhere else in the city. They'll be on our software. They will file a document. We have to check for certain things on the document, the page size, the name, the legal description of the property, every single time. And if that document fulfills our requirements, we accept it. If it does not fill our requirements, we reject it, and we send it back to them and say, hey, you need to update this to fulfill the requirements. Um, Artificial intelligence can help out with that. It can absolutely take on that task, which is one of the larger tasks we have in our office, and we can have a human double check the artificial intelligence. So right now we have about 5 staff members that are direct clerks with their titles of clerk that do that 40 hours a week. And then we have another 2 staff members who are auditors of that work, who double check the staff members' work. What we're looking to use artificial intelligence is to fill in the job of the clerks, and we'll still keep the auditors to double check the work of that artificial intelligence later. So a human needs to be a part of the process, but doesn't have to do every single task. And that's where I see artificial intelligence supporting a lot of government work in the future. Is that what it does at this point? It doesn't in a sense always replace staff, but it turns one staff member to someone who can do 10 people's work. Um, so that leads into the second thing people are afraid about. People are afraid about losing their job when it comes to artificial intelligence. And here's what I would say when it comes to government. There is always something else to do in government. There is always a service to provide when it comes to federal, state, and local government where I'm at. Um, I plan to shift, and I've already told my employees, if you won't lose your salary, you may lose your job description. So you will shift you to something else that's more productive that artificial intelligence can't do. One of those things in our office is indexing and uh, it's actually scanning and indexing documents. So we have still tens of thousands of documents to scan into our digital database. And we're going to, if artificial intelligence works for what we're building now for those clerks, we'll shift those clerks' job description to, well, they'll be digitizing documents that will make it easier for citizens to access those documents on their computer and not have to come into the office. So there's if the digitizing documents gets done, then we'll shift those employees to something else, probably something that is more customer facing, and direct impact with customers that artificial intelligence technically can't do. So there are several other vacancies within our local government, from trash collectors to parking attendants to health clinic workers and school programs that we that in city hall we need more than enough people for. And I want folks to not be as afraid of artificial intelligence, that it can shift our focus of our human capital to things that are more customer focusing that AI can't do.
You know what? I gotta say, you mentioned several things I think are AI best practices. You already say shift work, not losing jobs. I know some of you are afraid, but responsibilities are going to change. I mean, that's just the inevitable. And I love the fact that you say human verification, because AI, as great as it is, it gets some things wrong. So that's very intelligent. See, government can be innovative here. You see, now I'm going to attack the Republicans a little bit. See, government can be a little innovative here. This is debunking we don't have to use floppy disk and operate like we in 1980s. I mean, come on. I've seen some things like that, especially the federal government, which was mind-boggling. What? Are you stuck in 1980s? Are you serious? But some of this stuff is that, they eventually innovated, but it was so appalling to me. And look, I say a taxpayer is the most unwilling, forced investor of government because we giving that money, whether we like it or not. Look, unless you want to be a criminal, I don't support that at all. Let's just be clear. I'm critical of government, but I will never go as far as that. Look, this is why I'm for government reform, not for abolishment. I'm a reformist, not abolisher, because I think abolishing is too reckless and it will do more damage than intended. Oh, but I want to destroy this. No, 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 no. No, no, no. People, we get addicted to breaking stuff. No, no, I don't trust that. The human psyche is not the most, it's flawed. Okay, let's just say that it's flawed. No, 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 no. Okay, that's just no, 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 no. You see, this is good here. And look, in New York City, we still got some antiquated prop, and the way we integrate online, it's not the best. I mean, you got to do like 10 clicks just to get what I want. And I saw your website. I do just a few clicks to find what I want. So you see, this is what's needed. Less clicks you need to do, the better. And I gotta give a shout out to a tech guest I had a while ago, Dan Hoffman. I think I butcher his name. It's Dan the man. I'm just gonna call him. He's a tech guy, and he says less clicks, the better. I said, yeah, I agree, because I always compared a private business website versus a typical government website. Federally, it's very bad. I got to do 10, 15 to 20 clicks to find what I want. Private sector is probably like 1 to 3 clicks. And that's just a general philosophy. I'm not a tech expert, but this is what I learned from interviewing a lot of tech experts. And I try to carry a little bit what they have told me. So,
Very good.
no, yeah, that's just something. Look, you have to be a lifelong learner. You learn, unless you're dead, then, that's a whole different thing. God forbid. Look, just be a lifelong learner, people. That's all I have to say about that. And look at that. And look, see, we have someone here who's being innovative with AI, and just like you said, most government people are afraid of, oh my goodness. Unless you look, if you put personal information to AI, of course that's unsafe. Let's be honest. But I'm sure most people are not that stupid to do that. Let's just be clear. But it's just, people, look, this is something that we are gonna have to get used to, and your job is gonna shift to something that requires humans, like complicated customer problems that you
Yeah.
cannot just automate. Like, I
Can I
don't know.
can I talk a little
Sure.
about that? What I've learned, I spent a lot of time in the last 6 months looking at government tech and government AI. Um, I've been disappointed with government tech since I've been in the executive branch, really, for the past 7 years. Really, what I found is that where government AI right now is focused on the chatbot. I've been to several conferences, and I've been to, talk to several folks, and a lot of government AI is just about solving, like, kind of the phone issue, the direct to to customer issue with the chatbot. Then there's a second level that we're hoping to get to, which is AI agents. So utilizing AI agents to complete tasks. And there are very few. I'm very surprised. I was actually in New York a few months ago, talking to a friend and hiring someone from New York to do some of our programming and developing. Very few uh, governments, including in New York City, they were complaining about New York City as well. Their online stuff some places that have so much money and are even as so progressive are still far behind on the technology side. And it's not that hard. It's not that hard to change your mindset and to utilize AI agents to take care of some of the tasks that you can't do. So here's if I had to make a pitch to governments is why they should is one, you have governments like New York City and in our region, like a St. Louis County, that have a deficit. They have a budget deficit, and I can guarantee you that deficit, which means to some of your listeners that don't know what deficit means, like they're spending more money than they bring in, is mostly due to labor. So they have a bunch of money they're spending that they can save. They can fill in their budget hole by shifting some of these tasks onto artificial intelligence and shifting some of these and shifting some of those jobs to things that are more meaningful. Then you have a service deficit. So you have things that people really need you to do that you want to do. Let's say like social workers and let's say clinical, like hospital workers. I think I say if you have a municipal hospital that you don't have enough people to do, that you can shift those workers to if you had that free time. The other thing that what we have in St. Louis City though is we have a budget surplus, but because we have a huge vacancy, a huge amount of vacancies. So we have this year about a $20 million budget surplus, and all of that is due to jobs we have uh, that we said we need filled that we can't fill in St. Louis City. So we could solve that issue at the same time, those amount of vacancies we have, because that vacancy we have a service deficit. There are things that should be getting done in the city that are getting done because we have folks doing clerk work that could actually be done with artificial intelligence. We can move those same clerks that we already have in the system that are already working full time for the city. We can move those folks to fill in some of those vacancies for our service deficit for things like cutting grass, picking up trash, servicing schools and mental health and folks with mental health issues, or intake for for poverty programs. We can move those clerks for other clerk positions, or physical positions in our city. So artificial intelligence makes people much more efficient, just like Google did, just like Encyclopedia has done, just like Zoom has done for us, just like all sorts of things have done for us in the past five to 20 years. Artificial intelligence, it can be seen as something that just increases efficiency for low skilled and high skilled workers if we do that right with those AI agents. And I'm hoping, and then the largest sector of that is, of course, software as a service. So our government software is just it's it's outdated. And in most cases, because I served on the state budget committee, I was the top Democrat on the state budget committee for a couple of years in Jefferson City. Um, by the time we set a budget, get a contract, and fulfill that contract with buying software from the federal, state, or local government, usually that and we like take the 18 months to 3 years or 4 years to bid it out. Usually that piece of technology is outdated by the time we start using it. So that's what makes government technology so outdated. And then to go through that process again, most governments are not really willing to do that within a decade, within 10 years. So, and think about that, the type of companies that bid on these projects, they know that, it gets it when they win the bid, they know they're going to pretty much be able to get that annual income for a whole decade. They don't really update their technology. So when we're able to use artificial intelligence into government software, and be able to upgrade and update more often, I think that's the next step that we still have to go to. And quite frankly, once again, I wish we were at the third level already and at the past AI agents at the software level and doing all three at once. But right now, a lot of folks are still focused on chatbots, just on the simple side of artificial intelligence, and or using it to make small decisions when we could be saving people money and providing way better service now, like literally within the next few months, if we can engage with programmers and developers to make the new age of government technology within the next few months, we can transform a lot of these governments and save a lot of money and provide a lot of good service immediately.
Yep. So let me just use one of your vocabulary. Deficit human will. I think that's the biggest problem of them all. Willing to change, and sadly, that's part of human nature. It's
Hmm.
just I wish we could just cure that. There's no real cure to that. That's just something that sadly that's an obstacle we have to deal with. It's been repeated. I'm not gonna give you a whole history lesson. You go to my previous episodes for that, where I gave from the medieval to the industrial and now to the AI revolution. And I agree, chatbots are so 2020 at this point. It's just. I mean, I'm gonna sound like a snob to you, and that's fine. You can call me
Mhm.
that. Sometimes I am. Sometimes I will happily own that label. But it's just, yeah, we should be getting to the next level, and not just governments. I even criticize even non for profits. They have this same unwillingness, just like governments. It's only what the private sector, even though they implement it poorly, but at least they're trying, at least to some degree. And I've interviewed business people, consultants on that, and I want to just know what they're doing in the private sector. And no, and they're changing the game, but there's still a gap that needs to be filled. Let's just be honest. I'm not saying that the gap is shrinking. If anything, it's just getting wider and wider and wider. And there's something that I think needs to be done. So the only question I have, and this is gonna be me being like a negative Nancy, what if those clerks don't want to pick up the trash and deal with social work and all of that? How's that gonna be addressed? Because that is a big shift for someone. They're gonna get training.
I can assure you that a lot of folks wouldn't want to shift. Um, but at the same time, I believe in mission over personality. And we have and most clerks and government clerks do believe in the mission of serving the public and serving people. And I've been successful in shifting folks by focusing on what the mission is in our office. And I can gladly say, at least most of the people in my office, I've had the overwhelming amount. I've had a good response from folks, especially lately when it comes to shifting folks. Like they understand the mission. What people do like, once again, too, is um, they like having a job. They like having a government job. Most people take a government job based on service too. They're interested in one reason why I left the private sector and decided to run for office. And it's like, I wanted my life to have purpose. And if that purpose is in the legislative branch, I feel the same purpose in the executive branch. So I feel the same purpose as someone who is a clerk rather than someone who is as trash worker. So some people can be based off purpose. Some people can be based off salary. Another best practice work for me is when you shift people's job, don't shift their salary. Make sure that they're making the same or more. Most people would be interested in a new adventure if they knew that adventure can pay them more. One thing I've done in my office that is I've reduced the amount of staff over time through normal retention or and sometimes through some terminations with folks who weren't a good fit in our office. But I've always reduced our staff and increased the salaries, the average salary of everyone. So when I first took office, the average salary of our since our low skilled workers of the bottom 50% was about $39,000. Now that average salary is $52,000. And what I find is that in government you get what you pay for. If you if you treat folks and pay them like they are not having a living, not with a living wage, then they'll get a second job. They'll focus on other things that are going to get them to the living wage. But if you give people respect and you provide them with a living wage, they'll treat the mission and the position with the respect that it deserves. So I say sometimes, in my experience, most folks are willing to shift if that is a shift up, if there's a shift, if it has the same mission, and if they are someone who's committed to service in general. And the folks who aren't, there wish there will be, um, make sure you pay them more, man. Most people will be willing to take a promotion, do a tougher job or a physical job if you're going to get paid more. And I truly believe that once we utilize good technology, utilize artificial intelligence to make positions more efficient, you can actually, as people are retiring out of these positions and normal change out of jobs, you can actually increase salaries and increase um, what you pay for those certain folks. And if you turn in 5 positions in one department into 2, you can increase that salary and get the 2 best and move those 3 over to another positions where you have higher salaries, where trash truck drivers making more than clerks. They're making $20,000 more than clerks. Then I think that's a win-win scenario for everyone.
Oh, that's a very good answer. Look, even just termination, all that. Look, listen, some people it's not a good fit. I mean, that's just reality. Not everyone's gonna be a good fit. Maybe 1, 2 years for some sadly even lower than that. And then there's just I love that answer. They're mission driven.
Hmm.
So, and a lot of people don't say that as an answer because people mission driven, they're most likely going to stay there much longer because of the mission, and that's very true. Even though, yep, salary increase, that's nice.
Hmm.
That's definitely going to increase retention. I mean, this is no brainer. Private sector, take some notes. Um, it, this should be a no brainer to people. They perform well. I believe in agree with a lot of that. I mean, this is a very rational answer here. I hope you're listening, people. This is not a red pill, blue pill talking point here. This is reality. Okay. And look, I'm anti-partisan. So as an anti-partisan answer, non-partisan answer, that gets an A for me because that's just reality. Okay. You could probably criticize the wording to frame it, but I don't care about that. I just care about the overall idea. That's for you. You can rant. I'm on the comment section. That's fine. I just hope you're just getting the main points, people. And look, not all Dems are anti-business, which that's just nonsense. Even when I started as a moderate Democrat, I thought that was nonsense when I heard that. Or communists and all of that. I said, yeah, maybe a few, but that's still not the majority of Democrats. You can criticize on policy. I'm for that, but let's not throw these crazy names out, especially as no merit. This is why names like Nazi and communist, they losing meanings because you just throw that at people. All right. So this is that what I heard is nothing communist. If anything, this is like worker retention, even competitiveness to some degree, because those who are doing the best, they get in that race. So hey, healthy competition, it's good for business. So what can I say? I'm pro healthy competition, but actually, it's not even a but. It's just yeah. This is good stuff. I hope you're really listening, people. Now I'm putting a serious hat. I don't like to joke and call you names sometimes, but this is good. This is good. Now let's shift into the more political. Let's bring the little easier part, and I'm just gonna frame it in Missouri politics. Yeah, so we're gonna get into a little bit of Missouri politics. What is the state of the Democrat Party?
What is the state of the Democratic Party in Missouri? I think the Democratic Party has a lot of potential, and um, usually in nationally and in any state, uh, we use the term of a pendulum, and I've been a part of Missouri politics for the past 15 years. Well, I've served in the state legislature where the pendulum, when I got to the state legislature, we had a Democratic governor, and we had just become in the super minority in both the House and the Senate. And the pendulum was swinging pretty conservative to the right. And um, usually the pendulum swings back when one party or another, in a sense, goes too far away from, in a sense, what's known as some people call it a moderate view, but I'd say the average view of, because the moderate view can change from time to time. in the 90s, a lot of people felt like the pendulum swung away from Democrats in Missouri based upon pro-choice issues and pro-gay rights issues. And they felt like there were a lot of rural folks who um, there were some big bills that were voted on that Democrats took big stands on, especially I think it was the gay marriage, the Bush era gay marriage ban that Democrats really stood strong against. That shifted some of the state legislative races. And then, of course, really what happened in 2008 when Barack Obama got elected, that shift in 2010, the shift completed based on race, really a lot of race in politics. So what is happening though is that I think the Republicans have gone too far conservative and too far to the right, and that pendulum is swinging back towards progress and towards ideals. And what you're finding in Missouri is that a lot of statewide Democrat ideas are winning statewide ballot initiatives like increasing minimum wage, legalizing marijuana, all sorts of things that are, and then of course, uh, repealing an abortion ban the state legislature did itself. Even on the issue of abortion, it seems that the Reds have gone too far to the right. I want to use some states around Missouri too to talk about that. When I was in the legislature, after the Republican that defeated the Democratic governor, we had a Governor Nixon, and there was a Republican named Eric Greitens that defeated our after Governor Nixon didn't run for reelection, he was termed out. Um, Democrats, we lost that election to a Republican, Eric Greitens. Eric Greitens only lasted in governor for about 2 years. He was forced. It wasn't a force. He resigned upon scandal over some actions he did during his campaign for governor. Some sexual harassment kind of Me Too issue charges that were brought against him. And what I found though is that might have him resigning, and really us a lot of Democrats forcing him to resign might have been a little mistake that we made that kind of made the pendulum not swing too far. You can look at other states around us like Kansas, Illinois, um, and it was it Kansas, Illinois, and there's one more in even Kentucky, who all had very far right Eric Greitens type governors who there in each of those states, that conservatism started to affect the state budget so much, especially in Illinois, where there was a Republican governor in Illinois, everyone. If some people forget this, in 2010 and 2012, there was a Republican governor in Illinois who went so far to cut the budget so bad and cut services so bad out of the state budget that a lot of folks in the middle started to hurt. And the Democrat governors were elected in Illinois and in Kansas and even Kentucky. And they're starting to see the pendulum swing back fast. In Missouri, we forced our Republican governor to resign. And actually, some Republicans joined in on that. Republicans helped to force him, knowing, kind of foreseeing that, I think, and put in a more moderate governor was in a lieutenant governor was in moved up to governor and then won re-election as governor. And we haven't had we didn't have such a drastic pendulum shift as there were in those other states. So I think that pendulum for us in Missouri is swinging slower than in Kansas, Illinois, and Kentucky, but it's still swinging towards supporting Democrats in the future.
That actually kind of answers both parties situations. Yeah, no, I always did agree with that. So look, Democrats have great policies. Even red states they gain success. You already said about abortions, even minimum wage. Those are easy Democrat W's. Yes, cool kids. I'm using W's, not wins. Everybody else is wins. Okay, for the more established generation, Gen X and onward wins. Okay, it's funny, and I do agree with that. It seems like the Republican politicians more popular, but Democrat policies win, which is very interesting. Maybe people like the Republican vibe, and they're sometimes they're entertaining, but you're not there for entertainment. You're there to impact lives positively. I mean, look, do I like the entertainment? Yeah, but at the end of the day, you need to serve the people well. That's what it all boils down to. If the entertainment overshadows that becomes a problem. And I will even lump Trump in there as well. Yeah, Trump is funny, but you're talking about policies that impacts people, so that part's not a funny matter. It's a very serious matter, and we are going to get to Trump, and I won't be surprised. Look, I'm pretty sure he ain't going to get a good approval. Okay, it doesn't take a genius to figure that out. And look, I've been, I've the only few times I've been pro Trump, but look, the TikTok ban thing that look like it's not going to happen. That's going to be a stay, but it's going to go a lot of revisions. And Larry Elderson, who's the second richest person, the one that owns Oracle, he's got for sharing it. I haven't read all the details, but that's the thing. He flip flops a lot. He does a lot of craziness. And look, I've been more critical of his second term than even his first term because it's just the cuts are reckless. But it's no. But to your point, Democrat policies, they win if they put in the ballot, they tend to win generally. And even legalizing marijuana, another thing that tends to win generally, even in some red states. So it seems like Democrats have better policy, but in terms of personality in the person, the Republicans is kind
Very
of
good point.
it's kind. I don't want to say super extra popular because they both doing bad, but it's kind of more popular.
Yeah.
So
I like to say in our state, and I think across the country too, Republicans, especially in our state, tend to out strategize, out organize, and outwork Democrats. And um, I've learned a lot from Republicans and how they work together and how they organize around a few issues and organize in a sense they show up all at the same place. They have a timeline in a sense where they're all working hard. And as Democrats, we're more focused on. We have a lot of organizations that help out, but we're really focused on fighting other Democrats in areas where we feel like we can win in our state and not we don't have enough of our best and brightest in areas that are pickup areas that where we could use a lot of that work to push back against a lot of Republican extremism. I mean, there of the geography of Missouri, in a sense, our best and brightest are not involved in 70% of the geography in Missouri. And I think if we can get some of our smarter people to take risks and get some of their easy wins in the cities, but also take some losses sometime and work hard and build up long-term strategy in the red and purple areas. I think we'll see. I think we can win in this state. I truly believe. I tell people I think we're one reverend candidate who is a strong, emotional, and good speaker who can speak to Christianity and um, poverty issues away from winning a statewide race. I tried that as state party chair to recruit some strong speaking reverends, but it's a little harder than I thought it was. But it's not impossible. And once again, if there becomes a motivated reverend profile, professional reverend person who can stir up a crowd, I think we got a winner here in Missouri. And I like how at least this is exactly what you're saying. We seem to be around the policies, not on the personality, not on that an individual person. And I tried to take some time is when I was state party chair to try to focus on the right profiles that are going to win elections at the state legislative and at the statewide level. And we got a few of those people in our state, but they're not convinced they could win to spend the amount of time it takes to win. And one day I hope we can change that.
Yeah, well, it's funny. I did interview one of them from the outside. I was trying to flip one seat blue. Dan Schaefer, shout out to him. Support his campaign. He's in Missouri as well. Progressive. He thinks that's winning chance because the incumbent is gone. Because and I think that's smart because incumbents they do have an advantage. Unfortunately, name ID is. I wish it wasn't that important. I think I would like track record and policies to be the most important thing. But people pay attention to name IDs much more than even policies. And that's when the Republicans are good at honing that and their simple messaging, linguistic discipline, and organization, like you said there. They are good at that. State coordination, they're very good at that. I mean, if the Dems could just be more organized and for the cool kids have some charisma, gravitas, then you could flip some seats and even and it actually gain some ground that that's even politically not feasible. You know, pull some upsets. Maybe the crystal ball be wrong. The Cook report would be wrong on some of them. Pull some upsets. I love an upset. Upsets are interesting to me. Instead of just, oh, Kelsey says 80% chance. I'm just using New York City mayoral race. Zoran Mondani is going to win. He's the most progressive candidate. He has the highest chance of winning because the two moderate Democrats are filled with scandals and corruption, and they're both more established. And name IDs are even better, but corruption overshadows them so bad that name ID is not good enough anymore. And the Republican, well, he don't even matter. It's so blue. It's so blue that he's a non-factor. And I like, and I know courtesy. I've talked to him before. And he's a very moderate Republican, anti-MAGA. So I voted for him before. I felt good about that. But
Mhm.
you know, I know he was gonna. I know he was gonna lose because let's listen. New York is blue, even though everybody hates Eric Adams, but he is a Democrat. Maybe you should have been a Democrat. Maybe infiltrated, flip Republican when you're mayor. I don't know. Is it unethical? Yeah, but you know, I'm a strategist. In the end of the day, I said, look, we got to go for the win. I'm a pragmatist. Let's get it done. You know, these are things that I think if Democrats get the branding and the right people, and you already said who could speak well, draw crowds, then things could turn around for the Democrats. And look, Democrats lost, but the Republicans over exaggerate. They say by long miles and they beat them. No, it's only by margins across the board, margins in the House, even in the Senate. Yeah, the executive, yeah, well, for now. You know, if and look, the Supreme Court's the only thing I can say the Republicans won for that's a permanent win. That's a long term win. But the rest, it could be flipped except if Democrats learn how to outmaneuver the gerrymandering that Republicans are doing, and they might keep the House because of that. Like Texas, they already done that, and California is going to do that when he put in their ballot. I think it is going to pass, I believe, but it's not. I don't think it's going to be enough. It's going to be at still net positive one, just based on the hypotheticals of the gerrymandering. So look, and if more red states join on that, like moderate sized red states, not the super small ones, doesn't matter for those, then it's gonna be +1, +2, and then Republicans are gonna keep the House because they know right now if they keep this current trajectory, they're gonna lose the House. And I agree. I said Democrats are gonna
Yeah,
take the House.
I would say this though. Man, I like for always the long game. I was saying always the long game. And in politics, always choose the long game. If anybody wants to get in politics that's listening or who's in politics, always choose the long game. I think the long game for this gerrymandering, I think it's better for Democrats. Because what Republicans are doing, and even in our state, they're making districts that are winnable today as Republican districts, especially in a state like Texas. It's very silly to make districts that are going to be a little more winnable for Republicans, but they how can I say this? We're going to take some Democratic districts away, and we're going to split that 60% Democratic district and spread it amongst some Republican districts. So you're making um you're making you're making more Republican districts, but you're making them less winnable for Republicans. So a lot of Republican districts in Texas were 60, 80%, 68, 70% districts. Some of them were already in the high 40s. Now we're making more Republican districts, making them in the lower 40s. Here's my hope and my prayer is that we're going to win some of those districts. The districts that are drawn for Republicans to win, Democrats can win some of those. In Missouri, this happened in Missouri, where one of my favorite congressmen in all of Congress has been not drawn out of his district, but his district's been changed from a 50 something percent, like I said, 52% Democrat district to a 40. I think it's a 44, 42 or 43% Democratic district. So it's a majority Republican district now, but I think he can still win it. I know the math is not necessarily totally in favor of him. That's why Republicans are doing it. But I think this is the election where there are some people in the middle who are going to say, this was wrong. I'm still going to vote for this guy who's clearly a more experienced congressperson to represent me than this new guy who just because he's red. Now, I think there's going to be just enough people that are going to be able to do that, and where Congressman Emmanuel Cleaver can still win a district in Missouri, win the district that he was supposed to lose, And that's going to create a scenario where the other two districts where some of that Emmanuel Cleaver's Democratic voters were pushed into, those districts become more winnable now. And in that case, Democrats could not necessarily, may not this cycle, but Republicans are being too short sighted. In 2 cycles from now, in a presidential election, or election after that, where Democrats can win, can pick up a seat in Missouri and pick up some seats in Texas. Quite frank, we've seen this happen before. In 2010, it went the other way, where there was a districting done, and there were some districts that were drawn to, in a sense, protect Democrats, where Republicans beat out the polling, and they beat out the statistics, and they were able to win the House by winning districts that were drawn for Democrats to win. Democrats is going to win them at a very low margin, but it got so close, the polling was so old, and some of the Democrat data was not accurate, to where people shifted in that election to, and I'm hoping that this election or the next one is going to be one of those elections where um, political, where hopefully we have strong, I love how you put it. I think some of the problems in Democratic politics, we don't have enough strong voices, where strong voices emerge, and we can shift the political waters to where some of these districts that we're being drawn out of are actually going to create other districts that are gonna be beneficial to us in the later, and most of them will be in suburban areas. We're going to see those in suburban parts that are combined with marginally beneficial rural parts of states like Missouri and Texas, and we can shift this thing and then get a super majority. My fingers crossed is that one day, and this is pie in the sky, but this kind of mistake that Republicans could be making is that we can get enough districts we can win by a slim majority, and then we're smart to get a super majority, and hopefully maybe improve the Constitution, and get rid of Citizens United. Do all kind of constitutionally changing things within those 2 years when we get a super majority in both the House and the Senate, and a president. That should be the goal for Democrats. That should be us working to turn out folks in some of these districts that are being newly drawn. And I think this could be, maybe Republicans win this and get some benefit this election in a few districts, but let's hope that this backfires and things shift in this year and this cycle and next in 26 and 28, and we can win big. So Republicans don't hesitate to use a crisis or a change as a benefit. Let's do it for ourselves too. Let me end that by saying how this is possible. Is politically, when you shift a district, all of a sudden you got a new voters to present yourself to. So Cleaver is going to get in front of new people. Now, is he going to be a disadvantage with some of those new people, maybe conservatives? Yes, but it's going to be new people. Is a person who's going to be running against him going to be in front of new people too? Yes. So are they going to be at disadvantage? Is it the maybe a D2 school versus LSU? Yes, but I've seen Appalachian State beat Michigan in a football game before. It can happen. It can happen, and I want that to happen across the country and get some upsets, like you said.
Yeah, no, I love a good upset, and I think you was alluding to this, but these red districts become a little less red because you're stretching out their base, which I think you was alluding to. So that's a very good point. I haven't heard anyone say that's a good point. That could be the hidden disadvantage or the sole disadvantage of gerrymander. You're just stretching what's R plus 20 could be R plus 5, and that's enough for an upset right there, based
Yes.
on how it's being broken up. So I didn't think of it that way, but that's a very good point.
Yeah.
That's a
So,
very good.
and if I can, I love that you mentioned it. It's a lot of these R plus 20 districts, they're turning into like a more of an R10. Republicans and Democrats alike, we bank on this notion that if a district is not within 5 points or less, it is not winnable for either side. So you have to be a R plus 5. If you're R plus 4, that's a district that's winnable. And then both parties throw millions of dollars into those districts where it's a 5, 4, 3 or less. What I'm saying too is like, because some folks say, "Oh no, they're being really smart. They're turning from a 20 to a 10." What I'm saying is that, if they turn it and I like it. So I like this is your scenario first. From a 20 to a 5, which is in some cases happening, man, we could it's not easy, but that is a very good chance for us to take advantage of that. Even if it's a 10, I would say you spend this cycle getting it down to a 5, and if that shift continues to happen, then you can win that seat. What most likely will happen is that as things shift, especially in a state like Texas, you create an R10 district and you get that thing down to 7 this time. You get it down to 4 next time, and then you can either win it or get it down to 1. This is where Republicans are much better at us in doing. They'll say, oh, we're going to win that in 8 years. I had a Republican Speaker of the House tell me, we knew we were going to do well in 2010 against you guys in Missouri because we didn't do as bad as we thought in 2008. They literally lost all the statewide elections except one in 2008. They, in Democrats, and I say in Republicans, lost, I think it was 7 seats. But they said, we thought we were going to lose like 14. So because we didn't lose 14, we knew the pendulum was going to swing back well for us in 10, and we're going to, and they were so, they didn't get, oh, woe is me. They said, oh man, we only lost 7. Do you know they picked up 17 in 2010 in this state? They picked up 17 seats, and then by 2000, they didn't win in 2012. By 2016, they took every statewide seat but once. The moral of the story is that we got to plan long term. And to your point, I love how you mentioned the R20, R10, like that, giving us that much in one redistricting cycle, and allow it. And if we can chip at it over 2 or 3 years within the next redistricting cycle, 2 or 3 cycles, I think we can win big if we organize and we work and we strategize right.
Oh yeah, I mean, well, guess what? I'm going to cancel one thing. We don't need to talk about Trump, and besides, I could probably predict what he's going to say about that. So, what this has actually been so enlightening for me, and I love this because it opens new pathways for me to think about this. That's true. It's a short term advantage now, but if you work and adapt within those gerrymandered districts, yeah, it's still winnable. And I like the fact that you said, yeah, if it's super strong or Republican district, they are stretching themselves thin if they keep doing this, and that solid red states are gonna become likely red, and it's become even lean red, and then it's gonna be swing and toss up, whatever term you want to use. And yeah, I think that's yeah, that is a very good point. I'm still stuck on that. That's pretty enlightening. See, yeah, I think things differently, people. Don't always listen to what media tells you, because media is always fear mongered. You're gonna go crazy and stuff. You want to be more logical and smart. Don't let the amygdala take over. Make sure your prefrontal cortex takes over. Because you could think of things very differently. This is not just for Dems. This is for Republicans as well. Even though one of my guests genetically said that the fear mongering part is actually stronger in the Republican brain than the Democrat brain. That's a shout out to Michael Anderson right there. Check his stuff out. But let's do the I think it's a good time to wrap up. I'm going to cancel the Trump thing. We only talk about Trump. Probably everybody got Trump fatigued. I'm getting Trump fatigued. So I'll change your mind on that one. Because look, listen, everybody said on Trump, they love him, they hate him, or they just think he's a wild card, whatever, and they all have valid points. So let's forget about that. Actually, I this is a good way to end it. Anything else you want to add? You know what? Actually, no. Before I do that, let's do a shameless plug for him to go to Louis cityrecorder.org. Okay, check that website out, especially for the Missourians. Check that out. And look, it's great services. I never seen a website that is so simple. It's so organized. And I'm not just saying
Thank you.
this just for shameless plug-in. It's actually much more better than the New York City and definitely the New York State design. And this is coming from a New Yorker. Yeah. Okay. And we could do better. And, I don't drink the New York Kool-Aid. Oh, New York is best no matter what. Yeah, we got the tallest buildings. Yeah, we got economic engine. Yeah, that's true. But when it comes to our implementation government, we suck. I'm just going to say like that. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. We suck. And we can do a lot better. We got potential that's not being used, because what's funny? Despite Democrats running it, they're conservative when it comes to holding power. Yeah, I'm going to say that, and not changing things. Yeah, they're conservative on that one. Get offended. I don't care. The AOCs, the Jerry Nadlers, all you're conservative comes holding your power. And Brad Lander, yeah, y'all progressives. Well, actually, not Jared Nadler. He's not really progressive. He pretends to be. But y'all conservative when it comes to trying to hold the power. And I've seen how y'all talk in some of your meetings that the media don't show. And some of it's quite appalling. And y'all intentionally misunderstand things just to maintain power. And that's something that the right has done as well. So to me, when it comes to maintain power, you're no better than the right. This is why I'm independent. I'm more for policies and people if the person's great. But at the end of the day, policy is what sticks, not the person. So that's ironic. So let's just be clear about that. And any other plugins you want to do? Oh, he has plenty of social medias as well. He has the Facebook and Twitter. I'm not calling it X. Instagram, LinkedIn, and the TikTok that was supposed to be banned, but it is here to stay. And me, I grown a soft heart on it. I used to be anti TikTok. I wanted it banned. That's been my position, but now I'm like, it helps small business, even though they got a lot of stupid people in there, mostly from one camp. And I'm going to sound like I agree with the right on that one. There's a lot of ignorant, left leaning youth in there that spread such foul things, but I don't promote them. I'm not going to say their name either because they're part of the problem as well. And I believe they've been indoctrinated. That's my position. Yeah, I will join the Republican camp on that criticism. Yeah, as an independent, I'm not partisan, but there's things I agree with Democrats. Let's plant things. I like how this government is being run. And shoot, maybe I might want to move here, see some government efficiency. It'd probably be cheaper and shoot. And there's a good job there, and it's cheaper rent and all that. Get out of this crazy city that's getting too damn expensive. To be honest, the rent's too damn high. Should have been a popular party, but that's been hijacked. So that's just my little ramblings. First world problems. That's all I'm going to say about that. I can rant much longer, but I'm going to keep it nice and short because you get the point from here. Anything else you want to plug in before I wrap this up?
No, not all, Elias. I've really enjoyed the conversation, man. Let's not let this be the last time. Love to keep in touch. And I just like to plug Politically High Tech, man. I'm sure this is a great podcast. I enjoy being on, my friend.
No, I want to definitely maintain contact because, see, look, I don't go by. If I was a partisan hack, and let me just use the right wing one for example, I would have said to hell with him just because he's a D. No, people, no. I go by character. I go by policy. I go by track record. I don't care where you lean. If you're too far left or too far right, my reaction, whoa, you lost me as a voter. You lost me there. You lost me. I'm anti far whatever. Okay. And I'm more of a fluid moderate. I mean, there's times I'll swing a little to the right, a little to the left, depending on the climate. As of now, I'm swinging more to the left because of Donald Trump and their aggressive cuts that are really hurting the country. Is irresponsible. They're just think of a surgeon just carelessly chopping you apart. That's what they're doing. It's graphic. They're hitting major organs and even fats. Yeah, they're attacking all that. Vaccine cuts, our weathering system, all of that. That's bad. That's bad. Yeah, you could be skeptical of the COVID-19 vaccine, but don't destroy all vaccines just because of that. That's crazy. They have worked, people. They have worked. Okay, let me calm down. I'm getting worked up. But look, let's end on a good note. Follow him, and look, government can't work good. Like I said, thank goodness I never agreed to government abolish, because look, I would not talk to him. Look at that. So I believe in government reform, and he's definitely doing that. So this is good for me. I don't care if you're a D and R, as long as you're doing good work, I would support that. That's all I'm going to say from there. Now let's do the little mine. This is the most selfish, shameless plug-in. Like, comment, subscribe, share this with anyone who could benefit for it. I want particularly the Missouri people to watch this, and either in the neighboring states, because impact could be pretty wide, and sometimes you'll pay attention to it. And anybody else in general, but Missouri are the most important people. And I do see gains overall that it's becoming a little more Democrat, slowly but surely, especially when the right is acting too crazy. I think reinstating dual was a crazy idea to try to push. I said, whoa, that's insane. Yeah, we're gonna go back to 17, 1800s. Wonderful. Just shell out with a gun. Yeah, great. So See, this is why you can't go too crazy. That's a moral lesson for both parties, not just Republicans. But y'all the ones acting crazy in that state. That this is what happens when you trip, when you drink the red, when you just eat the red pills crazily, or even the blue pill. But in this case, it's a red pill. For Missouri. So when you come too arrogant, you will lose it. You will lose it. You will lose your power, and that's what's gonna happen. Eventually, it's slower than I would like, but I like it when things are changing more fluid. So, all right, enough of me yammering. So, and give a review. Give an honest review. I don't want perfect 5 stars. Thank goodness I already achieved that. A hater gave me 1 star without saying anything. I like you too. You're interesting. And then I have one got 4 star, but mostly it's been 5 stars. And to me, that's more authentic than having a perfect 5 star because I don't know, there's some manipulation there over there. I don't trust it. I don't trust this podcast for me. And some of them are not the greatest, in my opinion. I'm trying to be nice here. I could be aggressive. I'm just trying to be nice here. And one more thing, and then give a review if this episode's great. Give at least one reason why. If the episode was not the best, give a reason why. Specific, constructive criticism is the way this podcast could grow. So saying, "Oh, you stupid," or "Michael Butler's a communist," that doesn't help. I'm just gonna ignore it. And I'm sure some of you just want to say it because you want to feel good. This is just cheap dopamine hits for you keyboard warriors, and that's what I'm gonna say. And give it if you're feeling generous, give a donation to this podcast as well. I have thought some ideas about exclusive episodes. The Action Bible, yeah, Bible in a comic book format, and I'm gonna start reading certain chapters. And one more thing, and I'm going to start having wild conversations through the paywall. If I'm going to be wild, you're going to pay for it. I need to hurt you somewhere. If I'm going to be wild, you're going to pay for my crazy performance. But this is for the general public. These are free, okay? Because I think that these things need to be free. If you want wild entertainment, you're going to have to pay for that. That's behind a golden vault of craziness, okay? And it's probably gonna be even super informative stuff. I will see where it goes from there. And then you get a shout out, you get custom emotes and things like that. All right. So, when you complete this audio or visual journey, have a blessed day, afternoon, or night.